Hi everyone, this is Arvind from MindMajix, and today I welcome you all to this amazing session on C++ interview questions. So guys, as you all know, C++ is a very popular programming language. And if you talk about the interviews related to C++, so mostly you will having questions related to the programming concepts of C++, and you can also have data structures and algorithm questions related to C++. And in this particular video, we will be covering the programming concepts related to C++, and the number of questions that we are having in this video is roughly around 60, and we have divided those into three categories. So the first category of questions is for the freshers. Then we have some intermediate level of questions. And finally, we will conclude this session by covering a few questions which are for the experienced candidates. So this is the whole agenda for this video. So without any further delay, let's get started with our first question. So the first question is a very simple one. What is C++? So C++, as you all know, is an object-oriented programming language, which was designed by Bjarne Stroustrup in 1985. And C++, as you all know, is a superset of C with the exception of classes, which are present in C. So the founder of C++ dubbed the new language C with classes at first. So that's why it was called C++. And after a while, though the name was changed to C++, and you can say that C++ was inspired by the C increment operator plus plus. Okay, so we will see what exactly is plus plus operator in the later part of this session. The next question over here is, what is a class? So the class is a data type that has been defined by the user. The term class is used to declare the class, and the data members and the member functions are contained in the class, and their access is controlled by three access specifiers, namely public, private, and protected. The type definition of the category of objects is defined by the class. It defines a data type, but not the data itself. Rather, it determines the data's structure. The next question is, what are the advantages of C++? So C++ not only maintains all of the features of C programming language, but it also improves the virtual memory and introduces a myriad of benefits, like as you can see on the screen. C++ is highly versatile programming language, and this indicates that the software written in it can run on almost any platform. Now, if you talk about the various features, so here you have classes, objects, inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction. So all of these are elements of C++, and this specifies that C++ is an object-oriented programming language. So all of these are the OOPS concepts, as you all know. Next, you have the feature of data hiding, and this aids the programmer in implementing security applications that are not susceptible to hackers. The next point over here is message passing, which is a connectivity methodology, and this enables the objects to interact with one another. And the last point over here is C++ has a vast library of functions. So all of these are very important advantages of C++ programming language. The next question over here is define tokens in C++. So token is the smallest element of a program that the compiler can understand. Now, tokens over here are categorized into different categories, as you can see on the screen. Those categories are keywords, identifiers, constants, strings, special symbols, and operators. The next question is, what are the different data types which are present in C++? So there are basically 4 data types which are present in C++, and those are, as you can see on the screen, the primitive data type, which is the most basic data type. And here you can have examples like character, short, integer, float, long, double, boolean, etc. Then the second data type is the derived data type. And here you can have examples like arrays, pointers, and so on. The third type is the enumeration. For example, the enum is the enumeration in C++. And last but not the least, you have the user-defined data types like structure, classes, and so on. The next question is, what is data binding and abstraction? So data binding is the method of constructing a link between both the application user interface and the information that it shows. So if the binding has correct parameters and the information provides the appropriate notification, whenever the data has changed its value, the components that are connected to it instantly adapt to the change. So this was a quick definition of data binding. And now if you talk about data abstraction, so it is a process of reducing an enormous amount of information to a simple representation of the whole. So it is the process of diminishing something to a set of basic characteristics by eliminating or subtracting the characteristics. The next important question is, what is the difference between C and C++? So guys, whenever in the actual interview also, you're asked such kind of questions like differentiate between so and so. So over here, what you can do is you can grab a piece of paper, and on that paper, you can make two columns, one for C, the second column for C++, and then you can mention the differentiating points between them. So over here, as you can see, there is one column for C and second one is for C++. So if you talk about the C programming language, so basically it is a procedure-oriented programming language. So what does that mean? So it simply means the OOPS concepts are not present in C programming language. And on the other hand, C++ is an object-oriented programming language. So here you have all of the OOPS concepts like class, objects, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction, and so on, as we have seen previously. The next point is C does not support data hiding, whereas in C++, you have the feature of encapsulation, and this hides the data to guarantee that the data structures and operators are used correctly. Okay, next, C is a subset of C++, whereas C++ is a superset of C. So it simply means all of the concepts of C are available in C++, but all of the concepts of C++ are not present in C. The next point is overloading of functions and operators is not possible in C, whereas in C++, you can overload functions as well as operators. So we will see that in the later part of the session, like how the overloading concept works. And the last point over here is in C, there are no namespace characteristics, whereas in C++ you have namespace to avoid the name clashes. The next question is, what is the object in C++? So an instance of a class is nothing but an object. So because a class is a user-defined data type, it is possible to refer an object as a variable of that data type. So this was a simple definition of object in C++. Now, the next question is the extension to the previous question. So how can you specify a class in C++? So in C++, you can specify a class by using the term class followed by an identifier, which is nothing but a class name. The body of the class is defined inside the curly brackets, and you can conclude the class definition by a semicolon. So as you can see here, to specify or define a class, you have to use the keyword class. Then you have the name, which you can name it as per your own convenience. Then you have two curly braces. As you can see here, this is the beginning and this is the end. And inside this, you have the data and the functions which are associated with that particular class. And finally, you will conclude your declaration, class declaration, by a semicolon. The next question is, what are the different types of operators in C++? So guys, these are the types of operators in C++, as you can see on the screen: arithmetic operators, assignment operators, relational operators, logical operators, and bitwise operators. So if you talk about arithmetic operators, so here you can perform operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, remainder, increment, and decrement. Next, if you talk about the assignment operators, so here you have equal to, addition and equal to, like plus equal to, then you have subtraction equal to, then you have multiplication equal to, division equal to, and the modulo equal to, which is the remainder. Next, if you talk about the relational operators, so here you have equal to, not equal to, less than, greater than, less than equal to, and greater than equal to. And if you talk about the logical operators, so here you have and, or, and not. So these are the logical operators. And last, you have the bitwise operators like AND, or. Then you have the left shift and right shift operators as well. And these fall under the category of bitwise operators. Apart from this, there are other operators as well in C++ like size of, and you have a single ampersand, so which represents the memory address of the operand. So you might have come across this concept in the pointers. So apart from this, there's one more operator, which is the dot. So this accesses members of the structure variables or the class objects. So these are the various types of operators in C++. The next question is, explain what are the characteristics of class members in C++. So in C++, the data and the functions are nothing but members, and data members and methods must always be defined within the class declaration. A member cannot be redeclared within a class, and no other members can be added outside of the class specification. The next question is, explain the difference between prefix and postfix. So in C++, there are basically two notations, prefix and postfix. So the distinction between prefix and postfix notation is that the prefix writes the operator before the operands, whereas the postfix writes the operator after the operands. So guys, in this particular question, you can also give examples of expressions of prefix and postfix. So like you can have an infix expression and you can convert it to the prefix and postfix. The next question is, what is the difference between an equal to and an assignment operator? So the double equal to operator determines whether or not the two operands are equal. So if this is the case, the output is either true or false. For example, if you consider the expression 5 equal to 5, so here the output will be true. So if you write 5 equal to 2, so in this case, the output will be false. So guys, you must understand, in case of double equal to, the output is either true or false. Whereas if you talk about the assignment operator, which is a single equal to, so here you assign the right hand side value to the left hand variable. For example, a equal to 10 and b equal to 20. So here what you are doing is you're simply assigning the value of 10 to a variable a, and here you're assigning the value of 20 to the variable b. So I hope this clears the difference between the double equal to and a single equal to operator. So the double equal to is to check whether the operands on either side are equal or not, whereas a single equal to is nothing but an assignment operator. So you use it to assign a value to a variable. The next question is, what is the difference between a structure and a class? So guys, if you talk about structure, by default, the structure's members are open to public. Whereas if you talk about a class, by default, the members of the class are private. So now what is public and private? So these are nothing but the access specifiers. If you talk about structure, so when creating a structure from a class, the underlying class or default structure's access specifiers are public, and the default access specifiers are private when you derive a class. And now if you talk about the declaration or specification of a structure, so here you have the keyword struct, and then you have the structure name, and inside the curly braces you have the body of the structure. Similarly, for a class declaration, you can have the class keyword, as we have seen already, and the class name, and then we have the body of the class inside the curly braces. So I hope this clears the difference between structure and a class. The next question is, what is polymorphism in C++? So polymorphism is defined as the presence of several forms. Its function depends greatly upon the circumstances. While we have several classes which are connected to each other through inheritance, this normally happens in C++. So consider a base class named car, which has a method called as car brand. So here you can have various brands for a car, such as Mercedes, BMW, Audi, and so on. And each has its own implementation of its car. So basically, polymorphism has two types. which is compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. The next question is, what is operator overloading? So operator overloading is a necessary component for performing the operations on the user-defined data types. We can change the default meaning of operators like plus, minus, multiplication, division, and assignment operators by overloading them. For example, using operator overloading, like what you can do is you can use a single operator for multiple purposes. Like if you talk about the addition operator, so basically it is an arithmetic operator. So if you use the addition operator with integers, so it will give you the addition of those integers. Whereas if you use the addition operator with strings, so basically you can use it for concatenation. So a single operator can have multiple meanings under different situations. The next question is, what is the difference between a reference and a pointer? So guys, if you talk about a reference, so it is nothing but a temporary variable that acts as an alias for an existing variable. So an alias is nothing but a second name for a variable. Whereas a pointer is a variable that stores a variable's address. In case of reference, to retrieve the value of a reference variable, no indirection operation is required. Like the value of the reference variable can be accessed directly. But this is not the case with pointer. To get the value of a pointer variable, you will have to use an indirect operator. In case of reference, the variable cannot be reassigned with the various address values once you have assigned it to somebody else. Whereas the pointer variable is an independent variable and hence it can be renamed to point to different objects. In case of reference, the variable cannot have a null value. But in case of pointers, you can have a null value associated with it. And last but not the least, at the time of declaration, the variable must be initialized for a reference. But in case of pointers, the variable need not be initialized at the time of declaration. So I hope this clears the difference between a reference and a pointer. The next question is, what are access modifiers? So C++ has three access modifiers like public, private, and protected. So data hiding is one of the most important characteristics of object-oriented programming languages like C++. So data hiding refers to limiting access to the members of the class. The next question is, define the basic type of variables which are used for different conditions in C++. So in C++, the variable is used for a variety of circumstances like Boolean, character, integer, float, and double. So in case of Boolean, it stores only Boolean values like true or false. In case of characters, so you have character kinds which are stored in these variables, like all of the characters from A to Z. With integer, you have variable with integral values like 0 to n. And with float and double, you have variables with large and floating point values. The next question is, explain what is the use of void main in C++ language. So guys, as you all must be knowing, our program, basically the main program begins from void main function. So this function specifies that the function will not return any value. So void means it won't return anything. But if you have int main, so it specifies that the function can return the integer type of data. So we can utilize the void main when our program is basic and will not terminate before reaching the last line of code, or when the code is error free. So guys, with this we have covered the questions which are meant for the freshers. And now question number 21 onwards, we will be covering some intermediate level of questions of C++. So the next question over here is, explain constructor in C++. So when an object is formed, the function object is a member function that is called automatically. So constructors have the same name as the class they belong to. So the compiler recognizes the member function as the function object. So One thing that you must understand over here is that constructors do not have a return type. So similarly, based on the previous question, what are destructors in C++? So when an object is created for the first time, the function object is automatically invoked. Similarly, when an object is destroyed, a destructor function is automatically invoked. A destructor is preceded by a title and has the same name as the function object, which is same as the class name. The next question is, what are the various OOPS concepts in C++? So OOPS basically means object-oriented programming. And here there are various concepts like object, class, inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, abstraction, and so on. The next question is, define virtual functions. So to replace the implementations provided by the base class, a virtual function is utilized. So even if the object in question is accessed through a base pointer rather than a derived pointer, the substitution has always been called when the object in question is of the derived class. So basically, a virtual function is a member function that is defined by the derived class, but it is present in the base class. So when the same function name is used both in the base and the derived class, the base function is declared with the keyword virtual. And whenever a function is declared as virtual, C++ determines which function to call at runtime based on the type of object referenced by the base class pointer. So by altering or changing the base class pointer to point to the distinct objects, we can execute many copies of the virtual functions. The next question over here is, what is the purpose of delete operator? So an object's delete operation removes a specified property. So if the deletion is successful, it will return true. Otherwise, it will return false. The next question is, what is the difference between delete and delete with square brackets? So delete with square brackets releases an array of allocated memory that was allocated with the new function, whereas delete releases a single chunk of memory that was allocated with new. The next question is, what is a class template? So a class template specifies how classes are generated based on parameters. So containers are typically implemented using class templates. A class template is created by providing it with a set of types as template parameters. The next question is a very important question. So what is a call by value and call by reference in C++? So if you talk about call by value, so here we transmit a copy of the parameter to the functions when using the call by value approach. So new memory is assigned to these duplicated values, and the changes to these values do not affect the variable in the main function. And now if you talk about call by reference, so here we supply the address of the variable to the call by reference technique, and the address is utilized to retrieve the actual argument which is used in the function call. So as a result of this, changes to the parameter affect the passing argument. So guys, in this particular question, you can give examples like simple examples of call by value and call by references by writing a few lines of code. The next question is, what is an inline function? So if a function is inline, the compiler stores a copy of the function's code at each point where it is called during compile time. So one of the most significant advantages of using an inline function is that it avoids the overhead of calling a regular function. The next question is, explain how functions are classified in C++. So in C++, the functions are classified as you can see on the screen, they are classified based on return type, function name, parameters, and function body. The next question is, what is the scope resolution operator? So guys, as you can see on the screen, the two colons, this is nothing but the scope resolution operator. So this qualifies concealed names so that they can be utilized. So if an explicit declaration of the same name in a block or a class obscures a namespace scope or global scope name, then you can use the quinary scope operator. The next question is, what is function overloading? So multiple functions with the same name can be defined in the same scope in C++. So overloaded functions are what they are termed when they are overloaded. So you can provide alternative meanings for a function depending on the kinds and quantity of the arguments with the overloaded functions. The next question is, what is the difference between operator overloading and function overloading? So in case of operator overloading, so it is nothing but the ability to redefine a standard operator in such a way that it takes on a new meaning when applied to an instances of class. In case of function overloading, now this is used when a function can have multiple versions and a function's signature varies, indicating that it has different set of parameters in each iteration. So I hope this clears the difference between operator overloading and function overloading. The next question is, define STD or standard. So guys, STL is nothing but the standard template library, and in C++, the default namespace standard is STD. The next question is, what do you know about the friend class and friend function? So a friend class has access to the secret, protected, and public members of the other classes. It has marked as friends. Whereas friend functions like the friend class can access the members who are secret, protected, or public. Friend functions are basically not the members of the friend class. The next question is, what are the characteristics of friend function? So the function isn't a part of the class to something that has been added as a friend. Because it isn't in the scope of that class, it can't be called using the object of that particular class. Now, a friend function can be used without object, just like any other function, and it can't get at the member names simply. So it has to utilize an object name and the dot membership operator. So it might be stated in either the private or the public sections of a class. The next question is, which operations are permitted on pointers? So the operations that can be performed on a pointer are increment or decrement with a pointer. So basically this means increasing the size of a pointer. So it implies that you can increase the size of the data type to which it points. And the second operation is subtracting a pointer from another pointer. So the number of elements that exist between two members of an array is returned when two pointers are pointing to the members of the array which are to be subtracted. The next question is, what is the difference between an array and a list? So a list is made up of heterogeneous elements, whereas an array is made up of homogeneous elements. So memory allocation in an array is static and continuous, whereas memory allocation in a list is dynamic and unpredictable. Apart from this, users of array do not keep a track of the next memory allocation, whereas users of list must keep a track of the next memory allocation location. So the next question over here is, what is an abstract class and when do you use it? So an abstract class is the one that has no objects that can be created. So as a parent for the derived class, such a class can exist. So by including a pure virtual function in a class, we can make it abstract. The next question is, what is an overflow error? So whenever a program is provided a number, a value, or a variable that it cannot manage, you can face an overflow error. So this is a common programming mistake, collaborating with integer or even other numericals. The next question is, explain inheritance. So the act of creating new classes from derived classes or from existing classes is known as inheritance. So here we have the base classes, which are also known as pre-existing classes, and derived classes inherit all of the capabilities of the base class, but they can also add their own features and enhancements. So guys, just to give you an example, as you can see here we have the base class, which is class vehicle. And for class vehicle, you have various features like fuel amount, capacity, the kind of brakes. And from this base class, you can have derived classes like class bus. So bus is a vehicle, class car, car is also a vehicle, and then you have a class truck. So truck is also a vehicle. So the properties of class vehicle are passed down to the class bus, class car, and class truck. So the most significant aspect of inheritance is that it allows for code reuse. The next question is, what is overloading? So when a single object behaves in multiple ways, it is called overloading. So even if two objects have the same name, they execute different functions. C++ allows you to define multiple definitions for the same function name or operator within the same scope. Overloading is basically a term that refers to the same thing as function overloading. And as you all know, overloading is of two categories: operator overloading and function overloading. The next question over here is, what is STL? So STL is nothing but a standard template library. So this is basically a set of C++ template classes that would provide commonly used programming data structures and operations such as list, stack, arrays, and so on. So it has basically an algorithm, an iterator, and a container class library as well. The next question is, what are the methods of exporting a function from a DLL? So there are basically two approaches that you can follow here. So the first approach is by using the type library in the DLL, and the second approach is by using the DLL instance to get a reference to the function. The next question is, explain what is C++ exceptional handling. So the practice of handling runtime faults in C++ is known as exception handling. So we handle the exceptions so that the application's usual flow can be preserved even when the runtime issues occur. An exception in C++ is a runtime event or an object. So the standard exception class is where all of the exceptions are derived from. The next question is, what are the types of member functions? So guys, there are different types of member functions as you can see on the screen: simple functions, static functions, constant functions, inline functions, and friend functions. The next question is, what is a copy constructor? So copy constructor is a member function that uses another object from the same class to initialize an object. The next question is, what are the decision-making statements in C++? Explain if statement with an example. So guys, the decision-making statements in C++ are, as you can see on the screen, you can have if statement, switch, and conditional operators. So if you talk about the example over here, so what you can do is you can write a simple example which can explain the usage of if statement. So in C++, what you can do is you can simply use two variables like integer variables, like assign 1 to a variable x, and then you can assign the value 2 to a variable y. So using if, you can simply check if so using if, you can simply check if x is greater than y. If yes, you can print out or you can display a statement like x is greater than y, and so on. So these are some of the simple examples that you can also give for switch statement and conditional operators. The next question is, what is multithreading in C++? So multithreading or multitasking is the capability that allows your computer to execute two or more programs at the same time. So multithreading is a sophisticated form of multitasking. So multi-threaded program is made up of two or more components that can run at the same time. So a thread is a component of such a program, and each thread defines a distinct execution path. The next question is, what is the difference between virtual function and pure virtual functions? So guys, a virtual function is a base class member function which may modify in a derived class. So here you have to use the keyword virtual to declare it. So as you can see over here, we have the class base, and here we have made this virtual void function public, and inside that function you can specify whatever you want. So pure virtual function is the one that has no implementation and is declared by setting the value to 0. So it doesn't have a body. So basically this function starts with the curly brace and ends with a curly brace. And now if you talk about the pure virtual function, so here you have the class base, and in public you have mentioned virtual void function equal to 0. So this value has to be essentially 0 in case of pure virtual functions. So the value 0 is not allocated to anything, and the equal to sign has no bearing on the assignment. So the only purpose is to inform the compiler that a function will be pure and it will not contain anything. So I hope this clears the difference between virtual function and pure virtual functions. Next question is, what are void pointers? So void pointer is a pointer that doesn't have a data type attached to it. So it can basically store any form of address. So basically what you can do is you can declare a void pointer by using void star pointer. So as you must be knowing, star denotes the pointer variable. So similarly, you can have the character pointer over here. And then if you assign this character pointer to a variable, you won't face any error. But if you do the reverse, like if you assign a variable to the character pointer, you might face an error because of the mismatch type problem. So we can assign any type of pointer to a void pointer, but we cannot do the opposite unless we use the typecast. Okay, and how can you typecast? So you can typecast by using this statement, as you can see here. So basically, here we are typecasting the void to the character pointer. The next question is, how do you allocate and deallocate memory in C++? So in C++, the new operator is used to allocate memory, whereas delete operator is used to deallocate the memory. As you can see here, we have used int and the variable is value, and here we have new int. So basically, what we have done is we have used the keyword new over here, and this allocates the memory for storing one integer. Similarly, we have delete value. So the value or the variable that we created in the first step, we can delete it using the delete keyword. So deallocates the memory by this variable value. Now we can use the similar thing for pointers as well. So here, if you carefully observe, we have int star arr, which is the pointer variable, and here we have the new integer. So basically, this allocates memory for storing 10 integer on numbers. Similarly, we can delete the above array pointer by using delete keyword. The next question is, what is a virtual destructor? So in C++, a virtual destructor is used in the base class to allow the derived class object to be destroyed as well. So the title operator and the virtual keyword are used before the constructor to declare a virtual destructor. So guys, the next question is, what should be the output of the following code? So in the actual interview, the interviewer can give you a few lines of code and he can ask you like what will be the output of this code. So here we have this code which says hash include iostream, and using namespace standard, we are using the standard libraries, and this is the main function. And here we have two variables, integer a equal to 5, integer b equal to 6, and we also have a integer c. So here we have c equal to a is greater than b, and then we have this operator. Similarly, following that we have a colon b. So here we have to guess what is the output of the variable c and return 0. So the output over here will be 6. And now why it will be 6? So here basically we are using the ternary operator, and the value of a is less than b, which violates the condition, and that is why we get the output as 6. The next question is, define the local and global scope of a variable. So global variables are useful for data that are relatively constant, or they must be accessed by multiple functions in the script, such as a session ID. A local variable, on the other hand, has a limited scope. It only exists within the block in which it was defined. The variable is destroyed and its operations are lost once that block ends. So guys, with this, we have come to the end of the session on C++ interview questions. I hope you guys have enjoyed this session. If at all you have any doubts or queries related to this session, then you can write them in the comment section and we will try to resolve them as early as possible. So guys, thank you so much for being with us, and I wish you all the very best for your upcoming interview.